Hello and welcome to this Car Pod.
I'm Kennan.
I'm Filippo.
And let's start with the news. Yes.
It's a Ferrari, so it must be my story. So this is the Ferrari 296 Speciale. We all knew that a lightweight version of the 296 was coming, and that is exactly what this car is. So it still uses 3-liter hybrid V6, just like the 296 does, but power goes from 819 horsepower, which was insane, to 868 in torque rises from 546 to 557. So a pretty big power increase.
870 horse.
That's not a huge increase in torque either.
But critically, like it's lighter. They say it's 132 pounds lighter, which doesn't sound like much, but the 296 wasn't a heavy car to begin with. So as usual, like, you know, they add more power, they strip more weight up, but the big thing with this car is they've added quite a bit of aero. They've added these little gamma wings at the rear, which Ferrari, since we're good to Montezemolo, so they famously, we do not do wings. And they added these two little wings at the back, which generate a lot more downforce, 959 pounds of downforce at 150 miles an hour.
That's a pretty legit amount because the car only weighs... Do you want an explanation?
Do you need to? Well,
the car only weighs, what, I don't know, 3,200 pounds. So 1,000 pounds of downforce means
a lot.
It's providing a pretty, that's a lot of weight pushing the car down, keeping it on the ground.
I just don't have a comparison.
Well, for perspective, the standard car produces 650.
Wow.
So it's a pretty big jump.
Is this car still rear-wheel drive?
Yes.
Damn.
Yeah,
870 horsepower through rear-wheel drive, and we thought the Hellcat was insane.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty rowdy, and it already it laps Ferrano 2 seconds a lap faster than the 296. It's putting out down the same time as the SF90, which of course is not a desirable car.
Well, but doesn't this seal the fate of the SF90?
I mean, yeah, this is if there were. I mean, as if the market values weren't a hammer blow enough.
Yeah,
this thing is just
because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking this is going to be limited, not physically. They won't limit the number, but it's going to be a lesser production car. Whereas there's a lot of SF90s. The power on this, the performance on this is absolutely unbelievable. It's going to be incredible. I think it looks cool as hell. The regular one already does, and then this looks even cooler.
I totally agree. And it's coming out, they say, first quarter of 2026 in coupe version, and then they're going to have a Spider version as well. And they're all already sold out. So
they're not all already sold out. Are they saying that still?
They're saying that, yeah.
Why do they say that? They're going to sell this for multiple model years. I mean, this is not already sold out.
They've already offered it to customers who have owned stuff already.
It's sold out in the sense that they will sell them out, no problem.
Right, I agree with that.
That's verbal commitment.
Right, which in Ferrari world is all you need, really, for them to say, yeah. But prices really haven't been announced yet. Obviously, for the U.S. market with tariffs, it will be a little bit different. But a lot of people are expecting it's going to be around $500,000, somewhere in that range.
What is a 296 car net?
About
296 base MSRP is $350.
Yeah,
in the 400s with options.
So yeah, like
deep.
And for a Spider, like probably 375, so 450 with options. So this will start around 500. That seems
about right. Yeah,
and it's still a bargain compared to SF90.
Right. Yeah. It's to me,
which starts at 525, but they all seem to be equipped in the 650, 700 range, and they sell for 264.
Right. So it's a bargain by that comparison. And I mean, yes, you have 6 owners as opposed to 8 in that car, but like,
I'd
way rather have this car.
I saw something about the steering wheel having physical controls.
Yeah.
And
did you notice that?
Notable.
I did notice that.
So I was actually surprised to see that because I just did a video with the 12 Cylindri.
Yeah.
And they're still using the capacitive touch guys. But they must have received some feedback because this is their very newest car, and they still looking at that interior photo. You can pull it up if you want. Just type in 296 Speciale interior. They still have a lot of those capacitive touch guys that people don't seem to like. But the steering wheel itself, they have gone back to actual buttons. Now, I don't think that's true of the start-stop button. I think it's still a thing.
Hard to see here, but
yeah, hard to tell. Maybe it's a button. But regardless, all of this stuff in all the other cars, including the regular 296, is the capacitive touch. And it's not the easiest thing to use. When you slide your fingers over, it's hard to, the system has a hard time interpreting what you're doing. Physical buttons here is definitely going to make life a little bit easier. That alone makes this car more desirable.
Do you think there's going to be a differentiation they make for their more track-focused models where that might matter more?
I have a suspicion.
I'll bet they roll up.
This is the beginning of going back to some of the...
Because, I mean, again, with the Ferrari, especially with the start button, I'm going to feel like I'm doing something.
I don't mind the capacitive touch controls actually for a lot of the stuff, and I know it's cheaper for them to make, so it's like kind of okay for consumers, win for the company, no problem. The steering wheel is a drawback, especially because Ferrari puts almost all of their infotainment in the gauge cluster, not in the center, so you're controlling it all with those little things. And it's a little difficult. When you slide left, sometimes the thing interprets that as a left tap as opposed to a slide, and that can get annoying, especially when you're going 300 miles an hour.
Right.
or something.
On the Autobahn, of course.
Okay, next one. This is a big one. Filippo, tell us about it.
All right, this is the new Slate.
Filippo
truck.
was there when the cover was pulled off the Slate at some sort of event space in Long Beach.
They had an event last week, and they drove in.
Illustrious.
They drove into the airplane hangar in a Slate.
They did.
And then two more.
They rented out an event space. After
Yeah.
this, they had the Goldfarb wedding. They had to get Slate out of there.
It was
Had to be out there by 11:30 so they could tear it
the
out.
We gotta
Long Beach
set up.
Airport. But this is the new Slate. Slate is a whole new car company that is funded in large part by Jeff Bezos and by the dude that owns the LA Dodgers, as well as some other investors. And their goal is to keep cars as simple as possible. So everything they're doing is about simplicity. You might notice that none of them are painted. That's because they're designed to be easy to wrap. And you can wrap it. You can buy a wrap from Slate, or you can bring it to your own wrap installer. There are a bunch of other components that you expect to be in a car that aren't in the Slate in the name of simplicity.
Like a radio.
Like a radio.
You want a radio?
You want any infotainment system? Too bad.
You as a native European must love this. Just no options of any kind. If you could give
No,
me
no, no.
maybe
Many
the
options, many customization options, but nothing standard.
standard, sorry,
Nothing
nothing
required. It's a cool idea, right? Like keep the build process really, really simple, keep it really standardized, and then offer a bunch of customizations that, in their words, get like flat pack shipped to the consumer. So you might notice there's an SUV available. There's also a slant back SUV available. You buy the pickup truck, and you then buy the additional seats and roof that goes in the SUV, and they ship it to your house.
Here's my problem.
Which one? Because there's some more problems.
The starting price is $27,500.
They're advertising it as after tax credits, it being under 20 grand. Tax credits right now are $7,500. So yeah.
So it's $27,499.
Which is the same price as a Ford Maverick, by the way.
Really? That's what a
the
Maverick
is $26,900 MSRP. So yes.
with destination? Yeah, 27. That's interesting. That's one of my problems, by the way. This is a two-door.
It's a two-door.
The market doesn't want two doors.
Yeah, but the market might want two doors. There's none for sale. Nobody knows.
Okay, well, let's go through some of the two-door
Wrangler.
SUVs that have...
The Bronco.
No, the Wrangler is the best example of it. The Wrangler was a two-door for years and years, and they came out with a four-door. And do you know the mix now? It's 85-15. The four doors are 85% of Wrangler sales. Let's talk through the other two-door SUVs that have succeeded over the years. The Chevy S10 Blazer, the Ford Explorer Sport,
Defender
the
90,
Isuzu Amigo,
which exists.
the Defender 90,
It
which
exists.
is, what's the model mix there on
zero.
Defender?
Approximately zero.
97-3.
Yeah.
So it's a two-door only. And by the way, I wasn't just talking about SUVs, pickups too.
Yep.
The Maverick is a four-door pickup. The market likes four-door pickups now. Is there an accessory to add
on doors? No, but you cannot see. Couple of other fun facts about it. There is a front trunk that they advertise as being able to fit 2 carry-on size suitcases. So that's something.
Okay.
That's actually a pretty big deal.
It will have it's rear-wheel drive, 201 horsepower, something like an 8-second 0 to 60 time is what they're claiming. By default, the default configuration, which starts at 27.5, will have 150 miles of range, thereabouts. You can add on an extended range battery that brings it to 240.
So for the same price as a Maverick,
it's a tough sell.
You get 2 less doors, no radio, no paint, 150 miles of range.
Crank windows.
Crank windows.
Although I meant
Barg.
But
people are going to freak out and be like, oh, this is exactly what I want.
Yeah.
And then are they going to buy it?
Let me do the math. Carry that one.
as is legally mandated, though, they do have a backup camera, they have automatic emergency braking, and they have collision avoidance or collision detection.
Okay, well, the backup camera is
which are all
federally mandated.
legally mandated. By
Is
that.
this
I don't
the
think
slowest EV on sale then currently?
No, there's some slow stuff out
but it's
there.
close.
Subaru makes the Solterra, and I don't know if it's slower, but in my mind it is.
8.1.
So there's things that I like and things that I don't like, including having seen it in person. I love the approach to simplicity. Like, there's a lot of stuff in cars that a lot of consumers don't want and would be willing to trade savings for. And I also am a big fan of any time a manufacturer tries really hard to simplify what they're building. If there are cost savings that result, and they have not found those cost savings clear,
Yeah, it's kind of
the
surprising.
price isn't right.
Well, it's kind of surprising for the same money as a Maverick, and they're saying if you don't include the incentive, it's 27.5. Well, the incentive may go away. There's a lot of talk about that.
Q4 2026 is what they're targeting, which really means they'll deliver a truck in December of 2026.
Yeah, and that's far away. That's 2 years from now.
I would not be that confident that incentives will exist. Now, they do say that it's going to be made at a factory in Indiana, and the batteries will also be made in the U.S. So from a tariff perspective, the Ford Maverick might increase notably in price.
Because it's built in Mexico.
This will not, in theory. It's built fully in the U.S., which is cool. And I like parts of the concept, but it's not the right price.
It is an interesting idea in concept. However, when I was looking at what is all accessorized, if
everything.
you want a radio, if you want paint, if you want this and that, they're going to end up a normally equipped one that most people are going to want is going to end up costing $35,000.
Yep.
And for that money, you get 150 miles range, 200 horsepower, and a two-door truck.
Yep.
And for 35, the Maverick it offers quite an appealing. You can get a mid-trim or high-trim Maverick or a lot of used stuff.
Yep.
And I imagine that used cars is one of the is something they're really trying to
A
focus on.
lot of their messaging was around, you previously were only in the market for a used car, now you can get a new car.
Well, now you can get a new two-door SUV.
With crank windows and a
Although I meant
0
the
to
crank
60
windows.
time from the
I meant to
1970s.
that. I meant to. I don't care about the specs for that. I think that really cars are overbuilt for the average consumer from a power perspective. Like they don't.
If you could deliver me an underbuilt car for 15, I'd be for 15, not pre-incentive.
Right. 15 period, not 27.5.
Because the incentive is the incentive off your income taxes.
There is a phase out, so you need to be making under.
Okay, but it is off your
150
income
grand.
taxes.
You can
take
get
it?
the credit immediately upon purchase.
Okay,
right now.
Let me name some other great successful two-door SUVs. Land Rover Freelander, canceled, failed. Suzuki Sidekick, canceled, failed. Toyota Land Cruiser, canceled, failed. Toyota RAV4, canceled, failed. Isuzu Via-Cross, canceled, failed. Kia Sportage, canceled, failed. Nissan Murano,
There
canceled,
was a
failed.
two-door Kia Sportage.
Yes, with a convertible.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Mercedes G-Wagon, canceled, failed.
Yep.
Isuzu Trooper, canceled, failed. GMC Jimmy, canceled, failed.
What Slate has different is they have the pickup truck. You can also get flat pack, the hard top, like that, and the slant back one.
This vehicle
this is
needs
hard.
4 doors and a lower price
This
point.
is the kind of. It certainly needs a lower price point. I don't disagree about for it. I could imagine it being a really appealing fleet vehicle.
Yeah.
It's simple. You can presumably buy a bunch from Slate directly. You can customize it easily to represent your business.
You don't need your
I like
fleet
that.
guys having a radio.
Well, fundamentally, like, if
AirPods.
you're ever like, if you see what fleet drivers are driving, they're using their own tablets for navigation anyways because it's tied to their company. You don't need to have an inbuilt navigation system.
Well, hey-
you don't need that stuff. I do agree. That's appealing for this, but for a consumer,
Yeah, a little less appealing for a consumer because once you get, I mean, wraps aren't cheap. Wrapping a vehicle is not cheap.
No,
this
it's
is
not.
purposely designed
Well-
to be cheaper.
Nonetheless, I mean, wrapping a full car is still $2,000. I mean, a car this size, it's little and it's designed for that. And maybe it'll have some efficiencies, but it's going to be expensive if you want any sort of paint on it, et cetera. I think the concept of it is cool. Like you do the concept of like a cheaper.
I like the idea.
Scaled down, et cetera, but not in love.
Yeah, I also do legitimately love that they're trying to keep things simple.
It's just hard for me to explain how much consumers want 4 doors.
And
Every
also-
pickup truck has switched away from this. Every SUV has switched away from this.
Also, fundamentally, at that price point, where you're gonna be most successful is if you can finance everybody. So if this truck comes out and they're very well funded, so it will, their success is gonna be partially on price and features, and partially on like, can you beat Nissan and Hyundai at the finance anybody game?
Yeah,
Do you have the right financing partners? Can you get deliveries out to customers? Can you make it seem appealing? Is your advertising strategy a good one? And they are backed by people that have had incredible success. So maybe
4 doors.
I'm
4
skeptical.
doors.
I just-
People are going to watch this and argue with me, but I've watched when I was a kid, every truck was 2 doors.
Yep.
And then this concept of a 4-door truck came out, and now for Maverick, for Ridgeline, for Grenadier Quartermaster, for Santa Cruz, they didn't even consider a 2-door version. It's not even discussed.
No.
And when you look at Tacoma and when you look at Frontier and Ranger,
all 4-door.
the percentage of 4-door sales
them.
is absolutely astronomical.
Yep.
Either crew cab or extended cab or 4-door.
Yep.
Then you go to the SUV side and it's the same deal.
Yep.
So that in itself, from an architecture perspective, is already a drawback of the car. Then you get into stuff like nothing standard and it's pricey.
I will say, so part of the nothing standard, you can get customizations. Part of their pitch at the event was, okay, you can pay the 20 grand up front or whatever. And then when you are able to, you can decide to add these customization
That's fair.
touches. So it's fair. By the way, it looks a lot like a Bronco 2. I've been trying for a while to place what the SUV looks like.
Yeah.
And it's a Bronco 2.
Bronco 2, yeah. Which, by the way, failed.
For Kennan's sake, though, it is 2 feet shorter than a Maverick.
2
my
feet shorter than a Maverick.
And like
Maverick
about
is
the
not
length of
short,
a
though. That's
cross
interesting.
track.
That's actually bigger than I was expecting. A Maverick is actually pretty long. A Maverick is 200 inches long. So this is 2 feet.
174, 76. I'm rounding a little bit.
186. 2 feet shorter.
2 feet shorter.
170. Okay, that's pretty good. That's like a Corolla. That's actually decent. But you
an
lose
inch-
the doors.
It's an inch longer than a cross track or something, or it's shorter than a cross track.
Anybody can get 2 feet off a Maverick if you pull out the back doors.
Right.
Hell, why don't they pull out the front doors? They could be 4 feet shorter. No receipts at all. Okay, move on to the next news. Yeah. With everything that's happening in the economy, it feels like we're all walking on shaky ground. Prices are stuck at really high levels, and it seems like nothing is affordable anymore. It's no wonder many are relying on credit cards to cover the gaps. Credit card debt is skyrocketing, and it's leaving a lot of people stressed out. If you're a homeowner, you don't have to face this uncertainty alone. My friends at American Financing can help you take control. They can help you access the equity in your home to help you pay down that high-interest credit card debt, giving you peace of mind and real savings. On average, people like you are saving $800 a month. Plus, American Financing may close your loan in as little as 10 days. Their mortgage consultants are salary-based, so there's no incentive for them to put you in a loan that doesn't make sense. And American Financing is family-owned, and they've been around for 25 years. Don't let the chaos of the economy get the best of you. Call American Financing now. It costs you nothing to get started, and you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments, giving you a cushion in this uncertain time. Call today 866-885-1881 or visit americanfinancing.net/Doug. NMLS 182334, NMLSconsumeraccess.org. Ooh, Porsche. Okay. Does anybody know about this?
Nope.
Or you want me to tell you?
I have absolutely no idea.
Porsche released a video about this car, which was some sort of old Porsche race car that was titled for the
It's a
road.
917.
Sean's mad at me because I don't know, but I don't get into this stuff.
It's a 917 that was titled for the road.
It was titled for the road. It's a big deal. If you're into Porsches, if you went to all the Porsche events, you know what this is.
Right.
I don't know what it is. It's some Porsche, okay? Race car that was offered that someone made into a road car, okay? So they released a video teasing their current race car, their current flagship race car, which is the 963. And they kind of implied in the video that they will be making a road legal version of the 963, sort of a tribute, a harken back to the old that particular road legal 917. Now, in the Porsche supercar community, of which I am a part,
Obviously.
there was a lot of fear that the next Porsche supercar would be fully electric, and Porsche had teased this Mission X that was this electric supercar, and then they haven't said that was a concept car. They never claimed they were going to build it, but there was thought that Porsche makes a concept car. Porsche typically ends up building it. There was thought that Porsche had pulled back from that. None of this had ever become official, but through various inklings, we had heard that Porsche had pulled back from Mission X. They didn't want to build an electric supercar because they've seen the lack of success that other electric supercars have had. The question is this the next Porsche supercar after Carrera GT, 918, or is this some special thing that they're going to make in very small numbers, like a road legal version of this LMP? I mean, this would be a very special car if they made it. Hard for me to believe they're going to be able to find big amount of buyers for a road legal version of a race car. They're usually quite compromised.
Right. Of course, you drove one recently, like the Aston Martin Valkyrie is that, and it's just a race car.
But
it's definitely
that point, Aston did that with the Valkyrie. Maybe Porsche is sitting there saying, well, why don't we? I mean, why don't we give it a try?
They've done this before. The Dower 962 is a good example. That was a 962 race car with license plates.
Yeah.
It's so that, I mean.
And the Carrera GT is a Formula One engine. So you could argue.
Does not have an F1 engine.
You could make the argument that they've done it many times.
What year was the Carrera GT announced?
In 2000.
What year was the 918 announced?
We announced it in March 18 of 2013, I believe. I think that's true. Okay. No, 2012. And it was around,
production began in 15.
Around there.
So like 05, 2015?
No, we announced it 918 of 12, I think.
I see what you're going.
No,
I
really don't know. Like, they haven't had a
been a while.
car in a decade. That is their kid. This doesn't seem like that, though. This seems like the kind of thing where Ford third-gen Ford GT is a race car.
Either way, I will say one thing to Porsche's deep credit. Last week we made fun of that ridiculous 70 years of the 70s or whatever the hell that yellow thing.
Yeah, BS.
This ain't BS.
No, this is pretty real. They slapped back pretty quickly.
This is cool. Like whether or not it's made, and my guess is what they're going to do is build this in a tremendously small production volume, like they did with the 935. Remember that was a GT2 RS that was a race car and it was very slow production. I got in Manny Coachman's. We didn't drive it around. It seemed very compromised, but there's a market for that. And if they did this as a road car, that would be even cooler.
No, I agree. I don't think this is their next supercar. I think it's something else. And it'll be exciting to see what they
Pretty damn cool.
Because-
They actually, any sort of road version of this, and they, by the way, they said it's coming June of 25, which is, 2 months away. They'll probably show it.
Right.
My presumption is very expensive, very limited production, very compromised car for only a very certain type of buyer, not your Carrera GT buyer who wants a car to cruise around on weekends, but guys who are like really dedicated Porsche people and in theory track people. But it would be cool. Whatever it is, a road going version of this would be cool.
I guess if you're looking at it in lineage terms, it's like the Carrera GT is the 959 Carrera GT 918. That's its own separate thing. The 962 Dower, the GT1. Maybe this is more
like a 996 GT1. That's.
I think that's how I think about it.
That's probably a good example of what it is. But how cool would that be if that was a thing?
Be damn cool.
Yeah.
Build it.
And I will say also, I do struggle every day to try to connect my Carrera GT with the racing.
Well, I watch you struggle.
And the 918 is the same, right? The 918 used the powertrain from the Le Mans car at the time or whatever it was. I don't know.
The 919R, I think.
Yeah, the 919R,
Sure, of course.
But to actually take the race car and turn it into a road car, there's no struggle there. That'd be cool.
I'm here for it. Build
Next news story immediately. Yes. Cars.
It's cars. They're all impacted by tariffs. No, the reason we're talking about it again, because I'm making us talk about it every week. Yesterday, so on Tuesday, President Trump signed a couple of executive orders that are intended to help the automotive industry. The administration's clearly been getting a lot of complaints from manufacturers, from dealers, from lobby groups, and there were a couple of very technical executive orders intended to help them. One of them says that basically cars are not subject to the aluminum and steel tariffs. The thought being there's already a 25% tariff on any car being imported. They don't need to also be doubly tariffed on these other components. That helps, presumably. The second is related to the auto parts tariff. So major auto parts starting May 3rd, if memory serves, are also going to be subject to a 25% tariff. There's now a sort of a carve out where if you're a manufacturer and you also build cars in the US for the American market, you can kind of be exempted from a portion of the value of that. It's 3.75% of the value of American made vehicles. None of it, I will say, from what I've seen, there's no clear guidance on how, when, who's calculating, what formulas, who decides how much is paying, what the consequences are for guessing wrong, whatever. Still a lot of questions. The automotive industry, I think they would like more support on limiting tariffs. This is a little bit of like a gesture out saying, hey, we're listening-ish.
The tariff thing, so a little bit more rolling back of the ridiculous tariffs.
Lightly rolling back,
lightly
exempted.
Continuing to, people were getting yippee. Remember that?
We're not rolling back. We're making it even better. I am still tariffing everything. Everything's tariff.
Yeah.
Still the most beautiful word.
Still the most beautiful word. My favorite word.
Okay, move on to the next news story. Thank you for the tariff update, Filippo.
Yes. So
Some
Mercedes,
sort of car.
Mercedes AMG, as denoted by the logo.
The AMG logo.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm just putting that together now. They recently released this graphic, which is just an AMG background with some very swoopy-looking coupe thing, a four-door coupe car. Now, this is allegedly going to be their first EV. AMG has not built an EV.
What about the EQS AMG?
They said, nope, this is a bespoke AMG. They even built one from the ground up themselves. And so AMG is saying this platform is going to become that, which I'm sure will be wildly successful.
That's just what we need. Have they looked at the money under the hood of RS e-tron GTs? RS e-tron GT's got a 160 sticker. You can walk out the dealer with one for like $37,500. AMG's like, yeah, we got to get in on that.
Now, I will say it depends. I mean, they are alluding to exactly the kind of motors they're going to use, but they're not telling us how many of them they're going to use.
Four.
Each engine makes, each motor makes 480 horsepower, 590 foot-pounds of torque.
It's going to be two, sorry.
If it's three, I mean, there's it's a possibility this car has 2,000 horsepower.
How many motors does the highest trim EQS have?
Right.
Two, right?
Two, I think. And even other competitors, like three is kind of push it, but BMW is looking at four.
A lot of them
Hummer
have
does four.
So that's interesting. So they've released the power output of the motor.
But they won't tell us how many they're going to use.
So this is a Taycan rival. That's what it's
absolutely. This is definitely.
What have they said? Announced ETA?
They're saying that this is going to be. No, they haven't said a specific ETA, but they're June at some point, like sometime this summer.
They'll reveal it,
and then when it's going to come out. Your guess is as good as mine. Sometime 26.
Can I ask a question?
This segment is so strange.
So
I'm shocked at
AMG specific vehicles. The SLS AMG.
The AMG GT.
The AMG GT after. I'm getting there. The AMG GT after that, which also had the AMG GT 63 4-door.
Yeah.
And 53 4-door.
Yeah.
And I think 43 4-door. They currently have an AMG GT. That's also the SL.
Yeah.
So not AMG SL.
Well, there's no non-AMG SL. So that is purely an AMG car.
Is it the Mercedes AMG SL 63? Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but like, what is... Why?
To take on the Taycan, I guess. Take on
The famously
Taycan.
excellently selling Taycan.
It is surprising. I guess they just figure they have to be in this segment.
But why?
The Taycan is not a huge hit. It's okay. It hasn't from a sales perspective. I actually think it's a great car. It just hasn't been a huge hit. It's surprising, especially because the Taycan's been out for a few years and has not been successful for a few years, that Mercedes is now doing this.
Right.
You'd think they would have done it right at the beginning and then...
Well, of course, if this is an EV skateboard platform that AMG is doing, you can imagine this will translate into the SUVs and other models within the space. But still, like, I agree, it does feel a little weird.
So is
late.
this for the European market, the American market, or the Chinese market? Because like, it's got to be for the Chinese market.
Yeah.
Who
If
else
it's
would
a
you make this
four-door.
for? Right.
Dude, that AMG GT 4-door, gas powered,
Great
the
car.
63.
Incredible car.
Oh, love that car so much.
Truly an incredible
But
car.
I'm interested in this. I'm curious to see where it ends up. I'm surprised that the world would look at the Taycan and the e-tron GT, and honestly, Mercedes' own EVs like the EQS, and especially the EQS and EQ AMG, which have not been successful.
Never seen one.
They're around, and say, yeah, we want it. We want more of this. So maybe it'll be a V12.
I'm also curious to see what the styling will be. Like,
Naturally,
Maybe there's two V12.
That'd be great.
will it be like AMG GT 4-door styling? Will it be fully separate? The front end.
I mean, it looks a lot like a
It looks
Taycan.
cool.
This looks cool. Whatever it is looks cool. So I'm excited to see.
They don't have their own styling language though, and they've said they're not continuing with the EQ line
Language.
styling. So
the throat lozenge. I love those EQs. But the market has not loved them. The market hasn't loved any of these really pricey EVs, especially the performance ones. So it's interesting to see them going after
Right,
that.
and you can only imagine how expensive this thing will be. It's just, it's going to be brutal.
All right, next news story. Interested to see
Oh,
more
yeah.
of
So
that
sticking with German manufacturers, so BMW released the M2. This is going to be this is like their race car. If you want to go racing, the M2 Racing is what you buy.
is it like a series? Do we know?
It's like it's kind of you can kind of take it on your own and enter
Like-
a variety.
oh,
of
okay, got
series,
it, got it,
So,
okay.
but this car, critically, unlike the M2, it does not have a 6-cylinder engine. This is a 2-liter twin turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. And BMW is citing the reason it has this is that it puts less strain on the components, so you can use more of the standard components like the cooling system and stuff like that from the normal road-going M2, and so it cuts down on cost. They use that's the B48 engine that's in this, makes 308 horsepower, which is down pretty substantially. That's down 53 horsepower compared to the normal car.
lighter though.
Yeah, 512 pounds
Yeah,
lighter.
it's a race car. It's going to be fast.
Sorry, 512 pounds lighter than the prior M2 Racing?
Than the M2.
Okay.
Than the normal M2. But my
like a
thing with
third
this
of
is
the-
they have said, do not worry, the 6-cylinder is not going anywhere for the normal M2. But I'm like,
You think it is?
if they're teasing, I'll bet you. We're going to lose the 6-cylinder for that car. I mean, we'll definitely lose it for the next generation. I wouldn't be surprised if it's some version of the B48.
Do you think we're going to lose it for the next generation?
I think so. I have a feeling if they're putting it in this car to go racing, I get
Even
it.
after what happened to the C63?
But the M2 is not the C60. The C63 has always been big, burly V8 power. This thing is, the M2 isn't that.
Yeah,
And BMW,
but they still Mercedes got a huge slap in the face from the from
sure,
the market.
if the M3 had a 4-cylinder, yeah, I agree with that. But the M2, it's like,
Not
I
the
don't
size
know.
of the old M3.
I would obviously prefer to have a 6-cylinder, but
They're
I don't know.
gonna
I
come
just
out-
have a feeling.
Yeah.
I have a feeling.
We'll find out.
Put it on your calendar,
But
mark
the fact that there's the racing car as a 4-cylinder makes us
Says a lot.
it. Yeah, exactly. I think BMW is being a little coy about that, but we'll see.
If you're thinking about selling your car and it's something cool, don't just trade it in. You'll probably leave thousands of dollars on the table. Instead, you should sell your cool car on Cars and Bids. It's the best place to sell your enthusiast car online. There's a simple submission process, you get full support from our auction team, and most importantly, you're selling directly to other car enthusiasts who actually know what your car is worth. No more lowball offers from dealerships, no tire kickers, no shady classifieds. We've seen our sellers get thousands of dollars more than their trade-in value again and again on Cars and Bids. It's honestly a no-brainer. So, if you're ready to move on to your next fun car, head to carsandbids.com to get started. That's carsandbids.com, the best way to sell your enthusiast car. Okay, we have to move on to the Talk Cars segment, which is sponsored by hippopotamuses.
Oh, wow.
Hippopotamuses. You can fit 14 apples in their mouth. Okay, Kennan. Kennan, tell us, you have a couple of interesting things to say. Go for it.
I do have a couple of interesting things to say.
Oh, wow.
So
He knows it.
He knows it.
One
He's
is-
confident.
One is that somebody mentioned on the pod a while ago that I shouldn't get a Cayenne Turbo because I'm young and single and I should be driving a sports car. It was you and a number of people said this. And so I have really been considering that. And I've been looking at a variety of sports cars because I can't make up my damn mind about what I want.
Yeah.
Right now, what I really, really, really want is a first-gen Viper. I love the car so much. I've talked about it before. So I've started looking for one. A couple of deals have kind of fallen through or like I just didn't get there soon enough or whatever, but I am like actively looking.
So we're doing
for
a first-gen Viper. We're
really
this
want
is
a
it.
first-
We're
maybe.
committed to this.
I really want
When I
one, but
come back in the fall, you're going to have a first-gen Viper.
I would like to have. I'm really
You going to
trying.
pinky me?
A week ago, he was talking about it in Alfa Romeo.
but that's
You,
the thing.
by the
I'm
way,
also-
you podcast audience missed this, but the other night I'm having dinner with Ken and he drops this bomb that he wants to get a 4-cylinder 70s Alpha. I'd never heard of this in my life. He's already in contact with some guy in Utah.
I support.
Of course you do. And that was one of the things I told him hardcore. I was like, if Filippo supports this, you got to really think about
twice.
whether it's a good decision.
Well, yeah, the reason I want the Alpha is I do want like a vintage motoring experience.
Yeah.
Like I like the idea of having some vintage convertible. And Alfa Romeos are a really easy way to dip into that. They're surprisingly reliable. Parts are very around and they're very highly supported by a very strong community. And so like the Alpha Spider to me is like not the 80s one, like truly the 70s one, like the Series 2 Alpha Spider, the Camtail is kind of what I was looking at. You don't know what I'm talking about.
Of course not.
Our producer does. He's smiling
But let
right
me
now.
ask you
Ear to ear.
this. Let me ask you this. Doesn't the Viper kind of provide sort of an old car driving experience?
Well, yeah,
it's
a
an
different-
engine, a seat. There might be seat belts.
It provides a different one, similar to a car I drove recently. I drove a De Tomaso Pantera recently, which is a kind of a thug of a car, big burly motor, just lots of power, and you hold on tight and you go, which I loved, by the way. But the Viper does provide more of that.
You love this. You love your M5
love
with
big
your
motors.
V8. You love your Cayenne with your V8. And you're over here being like, I want to get an Alpha. I want to get a little Duetto.
Well, I drove our producer Sean's car, and he has a GTV, 74 GTV, and it was lovely. It was so good.
It's a different experience, but it's a lovely experience.
It is different. It's more of like
But I'm thinking about who you are as a. Okay, look, the point is,
I want
you
the
want a
sports
Viper.
car. I would like to get a first-gen Viper.
Are you going to pinky me?
I don't want to.
Don't do it.
I'll be back in August. Why don't you want to pinky me?
I don't want to because of something. There are other cars on the list too. But the problem I'm running into is like there's just not as much out there as like that I'm like really getting excited about because what I want costs a lot more, and I don't want to necessarily spend that after my Ferrari heartbreak.
There's a lot of 92 Vipers out there, and most.
I don't want a 90.
Most.
I want a
okay, fine.
94. I want an
There's
air
a lot of
conditioner. He wants air
94
conditioning.
Vipers
He wants
out
the
there.
creature
and
comforts.
most of the people who own them are tired of them. That's like the primary thing
you say
about the
this-
94 Viper is that the owners are tired of them. I know they don't sell them often, but they're tired of them. Like, that's my point. Like, it's old guys who bought them. They were cool for a couple of years. Now their wives don't ride them anymore. They want to sell them. They just don't know they want to. You got to show up at their barn. You gotta,
Well, no, they want to sell them, but then they post them for prices that the market does not agree with based on the auction
understood.
site,
You got to
so-
wait a little while, or you got to seek them
but I
out.
don't-
You got to
wanna
go to
wait.
their. You got to go to their house in West Des Moines. You got to knock on the door and be like, "Hey, man. Hey, I know you got that Viper in there. I'm interested."
if you
Or
know somebody out there who has a
Are
Viper
you
in
the
a
guy that
barn.
called earlier? Are you Keenan? Keenan who called earlier?
Canyon? That's
Are you not worried that Doug's entire point is people are tired of them and want to sell them?
Well, I
and
wanna-
that's
I
not
don't
a
wanna own
selling
this car
point for it?
forever. I want to own this car.
He just wants the experience
just
for a
want it
little
for
while.
like a year.
I like your statement that there's a lot of cars on the list, and whatever kind of comes
Yeah.
across your desk first, fair. Like that's
Interlagos
reasonable.
Blue
You want a lot of
Z4M
experience.
Roadster. Oh, my
No,
God.
Kenan, for Christ's sake, it's time to move on. We've
I
done
love that car.
BMWs.
I
We've
agree
done
with that.
BMWs.
I
We've done
mean,
BMWs. We're ready to move on. The community, the group is ready to move on. It's like when Sam bought another R8. Well, nobody cares anymore. We're ready to move on.
Our friend Sam did buy a second. All right, he had a V8 automatic Roadster, got chirped about having a V8, and now he has V10.
V10 Auto.
Also an auto.
We're ready to move on. The group's ready to move on. If you got a Viper, you would inject some life and some passion into the group.
But is that my job? It's my car.
Yeah, but you don't think it'll inject some passion into your life?
Do you think it'll inject passion into him?
You
Don't let
twist
him
that
peer pressure
key,
you.
you hear that V10.
You go from, have to go up over, what is it, 3250, and then you can go into second gear? as
No,
opposed to fourth?
if you shift really early, you're good too.
Yeah, the skip shift only comes on.
Or
It
just
doesn't-
start in second.
Yeah, usually.
The point is, okay,
I do want- I do want-
I don't know how this turned into you saying you don't want a Viper. You do want a Viper.
I do want a Viper. It's just I'm looking every day, and there are just none around.
Well, keep looking. They're around. We had one on the site the other day.
They show up, but I also
My
think
mechanic
it's
told me
reasonable.
to keep looking. But I think
Don't listen to people except for me.
that
Only listen to me.
if you want to know what it's like being friends with Doug, that sums it up.
Forget everybody else. Okay,
Yes.
we're looking for a Viper.
Not pinkying you.
I'm giving you
not
4
pinky
months.
swearing.
I'm giving you 4 months.
But what
to
if
find
you
a
find
Viper.
something he likes?
I might
better?
find something else.
What would you like better for 30 grand?
Or I might just say screw it and get another Ferrari. I don't know.
Oh.
Like,
My God,
Man, we are
All
all
right.
over the place here, and it is not going well. Okay.
Can we move on?
I want to move on to 2 very quick my own talk cars.
Yes,
They're
please.
very, very short, but I want to say them. First off, I haven't told you this, and I don't think I've told you either. If I make it through May without buying a car,
it's like tomorrow.
exactly. If I make it through May without
Today
buying a
was-
car,
When these people are listening, it's
yeah, exactly. I have gone the longest without buying a car since 2010.
Are you including daily
15
drivers?
Yes. 15
Wow.
years. If I get through May without buying a car, it'll be 15 years since I have gone this long without buying a car.
what?
And
Did
the Sequoia was the last one I bought.
purchase.
Man, we need to.
Wow.
If you have the Gilmore Girls Jeep, you need
Call us
to
today.
Dude,
sell it to him today.
At this
break
point,
it.
it would be something like that would convince me to buy a car. Because I
Hotel
am
design?
so off card.
You want to sell the Columbus?
People are texting me all the time. Why don't you get this? Why don't you get that? And I have to be like, listen, I have zero interest in what you're talking about. Zero. So all I got to do is make it 1 more month, and then it's the longest in 15 years I've gone without buying a car.
15 years ago, you were 22. You were in college. Wow.
That's right. I had just graduated from college. And when I graduated from college, I lived in Georgia and private sales were not taxed. And so it was right then that I just started going crazy because you could and you could just buy private sale cars. And I did that. And I haven't gone, it's only been 16 months or something. Right. But that's the longest I've gone. So I've said I wouldn't buy a car, and I have been true to it, and I definitely won't buy one over the summer. Okay, the other thing I want to say, last week we got a question that asked us cars that are hated now that will be loved in the future, because we often talk about how a lot of the cars that are beloved now were hated when they came out.
Yep.
And it was a great question, and we wanted some time to think on it, and so we did think on it a little bit. We came up with a couple of answers. The new Supra and the Storado we mentioned last week as cars that we think are disliked now but will be loved in the future. The Storado is the best one.
It's already starting on the Supra, legitimately.
It is.
Value's already up.
The Supra was never hated now, but there was always this
It wasn't-
it's not a real Supra, and
People will love it. I agree.
the one that we came up with that was the best one, the one that's most worth talking about is the new BMWs, the M2, the M3, and the M4. All 3 of those cars people are hating them, complaining, et cetera, and in 20 years, they will all be incredibly desirable cars.
When the new M2 came out, everybody was saying it's too big.
Too big, too ugly.
Yeah. And then 20 years, first of all, that'll be a small car probably, and it will be desirable.
And the styling is often what makes these cars desirable.
I do like how the M2 looks, to be clear.
People hate it. People
do
think
too.
that the front end is too big, that it's weird. It's okay, fine. But I remember every other car that was ever hated, including people didn't love how the Supra looked. It was too soupy. It was too melty, et cetera, et cetera. Now, people are obsessed with all these things. The M2, the M3, and the M4 are going to go down as the last 6-cylinder manual BMWs. They're going to. And this and the M3 with its big bucktooth front end are going to be absolutely beloved icons of BMW in 25
Probably
years.
one of the last manual inline 6 cars.
Yeah, cars, period.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree with that. I've said that since they came out, and that's why I've either as special, so I've never had a problem with the way they look. I don't really care as long as it has 6 cylinders, rear-wheel drive, and a manual
And it
transmission.
won't soon. And I wouldn't be surprised if these are the last. And one thing I've learned about cars that become valuable is it's often cars that were the last. And that mid-2000s era that we always talk about that gave us Courage GT and Ford GT and all these other cars, it was the last pre-screen, pre-hybrid, pre-automatic takeover. And we didn't know it at the time, but it was the last. And when you look at these cars, you can just tell. This is it. This is the end. It is ending here.
Most M3s and M4s that I see are the competition models,
Tips.
which are all-wheel drive tips.
Yep. So that's going to make the sticks even more desirable.
Yep.
Yeah, I guarantee you, mark my words, in 25 years, the comps will be worth less.
Yeah,
It's
without
like
a single
the,
doubt.
it's like the soft top
They already-
NAS Defender.
Trust me, you're not going to need 25 years. Well,
No.
that's the case. I really don't think so.
I mean, look at F1 versus manual Ferraris, right? My buddy Pat, who used to sell at Newport Beach, said they would get an allocation for a stick, call every customer on their 430 list, and they would all pass.
Yep.
Because they were waiting for an F1. And now what? Sticks are what? 3X?
Yep. Buy the turntables. That's right.
Okay.
I do think one other one that Kennan mentioned that's worth noting, the Hummer EV, maybe the only time they're going to try to do something that outrageous. The Hummer H2 at the time was kind of hated. Now kind of.
You think the Hummer EV?
I think that
the
there's
Hummer EV has a shot.
I think there's an
GMC,
people
annoyingly.
love the Hummer H2 right now. I think it's kind of gone through this ironic thing, and people I see them
the
occasionally.
H2 has had a little bit of a comeback.
It's had a comeback.
And this kind of like over the top styling, which the Hummer EV is. I can't imagine them
I
making
just don't
more.
think they're going to stop doing this. I think they're going to keep doing
they
cars
haven't
like
built
this.
that many.
Maybe, but I think there's kind of an ironic of its timeness about the Hummer EV, which because it's so describing it as a concept is so bizarre.
Yeah.
Here's this thing that's supposed to be big and burly and just
But it's
to say,
electric,
screw
it's
you,
1,000
but it's
horsepower, it's a
electric.
convertible also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's ever really going to become valuable. I could see it have a moment in 20 years.
I'm not gonna say super valuable. I bet it will become beloved by a certain sect of people, and I think the Cybertruck honestly probably falls in that same category too, of being like really emblematic of right now.
Yeah, but I don't think that will ever be loved.
You'd be surprised.
No, right now is the Cybertruck's best.
People love the Pinto, and then that
That's
was a
true.
terrible.
There are cars that are emblematic of an era. Do be like the DeLorean and the
true.
Mustang,
It's not
and
good,
some
yeah.
of them were good cars, some of them were bad cars, but often the Gremlin do often become like the Gremlin is
Gremlin.
almost synonymous with the 70s, right? Like the Cybertruck will be
That's so true. It'll be
to
a
an extent synonymous with this
2025
era,
car.
whether or not it's loved later. It will certainly always have it will always be special for being a cultural moment beyond just a vehicle.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think those cars fall into that category. Do I love it? No. Will I love it then? No. But some people will, I think.
Okay, Filippo, give us your top cars, and we got to move on to the market report.
For the very first time, I was pulled over.
Pulled over by the police. The California Highway Patrol got Filippo.
Yeah,
Got him.
I have never received a traffic ticket. I've never been in an accident. I've never been pulled over. And on Thursday, I was driving up to Orange County to go look at a Slate. Was driving on
Wasn't
the 5.
it Long Beach?
Yeah, but I was driving through Orange County.
Okay.
Sorry. I was driving up to Long Beach, was in Orange County.
Of course.
On the 5.
Of course.
And saw the police officer on the right. I was going the speed of traffic. And then the police officer slowed down, pulled behind me, pulled me over. That had never happened before. Now, all they actually cared about was the fact that the GTI, which is what I was driving, doesn't have a front plate. And the tint is kind of aggressive, both because I bought it from somebody and haven't added a front. Washington State doesn't require a front plate.
Yes, it does. I've actually been
Really?
surprised. Yes, Washington State does require a front plate. I've been surprised that you haven't had a front license plate on that car.
Nobody has drilled it. I don't have a front plate mount for it. It didn't come with the car. And nobody had drilled it, and I haven't gone around to it yet. Is what it amounts to.
That's what they always
please
say. Anyway, regardless, you didn't get a ticket.
I did not get a ticket.
It
He
is-
just said, like, I obviously, and our producer was in the car with me, were incredibly polite. The police officer was incredibly polite.
It is
I get
surprising me-
why they don't like that.
Traffic stops are kind of high risk.
Yeah.
To be honest, like
Yeah,
for officers, for the people.
Any officer will say the same thing.
You see on YouTube
Truly.
constant crashes where the people hit the police cars
Yep.
because they won't move over a lane. It's incredibly frustrating. To pull over for no front plate, I've never heard of it. I have heard of people getting no front plate tickets like when they're parked downtown at a meter.
Or I've also heard if you were doing something sketchy, then they couldn't quite get you on radar or something like that. Then they're like,
Or your car is like clearly lowered. There's clearly going to be some sort of emissions violation going on. They'll use front plate as a reason to pull you over. And
Or
then
tint.
Instagram is filled. Well, tint is a different thing. I think that tint is like totally legit reason to pull people over. I think it's wild that people have tint as dark as they do. I've never noticed on the
Mine
GTI.
is not especially dark by like Southern California tint standards.
Yeah. Do you know that Illinois has a special license plate for window tint and it allows you to get dark tint?
If you need the tint, yeah.
Okay, so here's the
Most
deal.
states have a medical
Type this in.
exemption.
If you, Illinois window tint license plate, type it in. If you have a certain, like an eye condition or a skin condition that's like very sensitive to, license plate, to,
Sorry, can't
and then
spell
type
that.
images. And then it's this one. It ends in WT. For window tint, and it's black writing instead of red like on normal. And so if you have like an eye condition or a skin condition that requires you to like be away from the sun, you get this license plate and you're exempted from the window
brilliant.
tint laws.
well, it's a good thing to be away from the sun. It's a good thing you live in Illinois. You never see it anyway.
Most states do have an exemption for it. The only one that has
Some states you have a card, Or there's one other state that lets you put a decal on your license. I don't remember what it is. Maybe it's Arizona. But anyway,
Wow.
window tint license plate. So anyway, you didn't get a ticket. And
They're going to
everything's
take
fine
it
in the-
friendly. I will get the front plate mounted. I'm planning on ordering it and getting it.
Just get one of the things that screw into the.
Are you gonna- are you gonna
don't drill it into the.
Are you going to detint? The first thing I did about my AMG or my E-Class wagon, non-AMG, is I took it to Kevin and had them take the tint off. He was like, "Do you want some tint?" I was like, "No."
I need to look at what the actual law is because I don't like breaking a law if I am. I'm not sure I am. My wife and I are of two different minds about this. I hate the tint. I don't like when there's an incredibly dark tint.
It makes it
I find
so hard to see at
so
night.
annoying at night. My wife had a good point. We drive to Arizona a lot, And it is actually really nice that the car doesn't get incredibly hot driving onto 8 through Arizona.
And he would like to run the AC less to save money. So this is a tough one for Filippo. Does the money saving part of Filippo win out over the law abiding part of Filippo?
I have your answer. There is just non-tinted tint, which just does heat rejection.
Kevin will install
sounds
for
costly.
you. Kevin will. I should have done it on the Sequoia, but Kevin will install for you. It's UV.
Wow.
And it's non.
It's not dark.
It doesn't cost more than normal tint, to be clear.
I wouldn't pay for tint.
But if you're taking it,
God,
look, you can have everything. Just do what I'm telling you to do.
No, it costs money. But I can still say that I can no longer say that I've never been pulled over. That I have now. But I still have not gotten a ticket.
But you didn't get pulled over for a traffic thing, which I think is the actual. When people say I've been pulled over, that's what they're referring to. But equipment violation is a different thing.
I hadn't been stung by a bee till I was about 15. And I was proud of having said I've never stung by a bee. But then all of a sudden, I got a ton of bee stings. So I hope you don't get now a ton of tickets, and that's what happens to you.
Okay, we got to move on to the market report, which is brought to you by the rhinoceros. The rhinoceros. It looks like it's wearing armor, but actually, it's its skin.
Can I pitch a second sponsor for this? It's also brought to you by the Cars and Bids app.
Oh, the Cars and Bids app. Yes.
Where you can browse, you can sell your car on Cars and Bids all through your
My apologies to the Rhinoceros community. I know you paid for this spot, and now we got, oh, God, Filippo.
No, you were close. It's the Cars and Bids apparosimus or whatever. Something. I'm trying to mix them together.
Okay. I want to talk about 2 market report items that are good. The first, bring on the BMW.
Yes. So I have long been waiting for the BMW M760i to come down in price. And it appears, forgot an I. And it appears we're close. I always felt once they're under 40, they are a serious bargain, and we're close. We sold this 2017 M760i with 51,000 miles on it for 41.
Good spec too.
So for those who don't know, this is the previous generation 7 Series. They do not do a V12 on the current body 7 Series.
That's correct.
So the previous generation 7 was the end of the line for the V12, and it's a V12 7 Series. What's the power rating on this car?
601 horsepower.
Yes,
600.
And more torque than you
When
could
I
ever use.
reviewed this car, you remember the key let you move it?
Oh,
there was
of
a
course.
keep the pad. Now they don't all have that. But so this car is 40 in the 40s. This is a normal key, thank God, because it was insane.
I'm sure when that
By the way,
breaks.
go back to the results because but look, even in August they were at 46, 45.
Yep.
This car is not old. This one that sold for 46 7 months ago. That's a 25,000 mile car. Like people are gonna be like, oh, but they're unreliable.
I don't.
Just 25,000 miles. How bad can it be?
That V12 is relatively. They've been building it for a very long time, and so I don't think that is what you have to worry about with reliability. Other things maybe. It is a
well, right. Look at the rear, at the interior, and pick on that picture. There's a whole tablet back here.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna.
But what a car for 40 grand.
40 grand or 45 or whatever.
It's this or
Look
like
at that.
base Highlander.
Why don't we have and the subtlety of it? That V12 badge.
Yeah,
This is also great.
You're talking to 7 people with that badge, but when those people see you, there's such respect. I told you this, I was driving on the freeway the other day. I think I was in my Ford GT or maybe the Countach, and I saw one, and I was like, oh, I respected the person.
Yeah, I haven't
Driving a $40,000 car.
Right, as it turns out, I respect him even more. But it is quite a car, quite a value. This is a car I would consider at some stage as a daily, because man, that is just so.
Also, that body 7 still looks brand new.
It still looks great.
I mean, the new one is completely different looking, but this still looks like a modern design language
People
car.
like this one more generally, and I don't.
I
I like the way the new one looks, but I like this quite a bit.
sorry?
Too.
I love how the new 7 looks.
Oh, it looks. It's
the
so,
new 7
it's so
is
With
boxy.
the right wheels and the right color, it works.
Yeah, there are some bad specs, but there are some good ones too.
are.
And the good
There are.
ones, really, it looks like very I'm the boss. You know I'm
Stately.
the boss.
It's
What are you, an S-Class?
closest a 7 Series has gone to a Rolls Royce-esque vibe.
Yes.
And I'm here for that.
But this is cool as hell. I cannot believe these are in the 40s.
We're close.
Crazy.
We're close.
Well, they're in the 40s for sure.
They're
That
in the
is
30s soon.
Almost in the 30s.
That is an unreal number.
What is the exterior color? It's blue, but what blue?
This one,
Azurite
Fire your
black.
dad blue.
Azurite black. Yeah, in great traditional BMW fashion, it's blue, and they call it black.
All right, Filippo, tell us the most important Cars and Bids market piece of news.
Yes, we are now auctioning cars from before 1981.
Before 1981. Previous to this, Cars and Bids was a marketplace only for cars from the modern era, 80s and up.
And we've kind of, from a lot of feedback from users, because we do a lot of surveys, we talk to a lot of folks, there was a lot of interest in older cars in that. And what they loved about Cars and Bids was not really that it was limited to 1981 and only. It was that we have like a modern interface and a site that works and a really great process for selling your car. And they wanted to do that with some older cars. So we are really thinking about ourselves as the car auction site for the modern enthusiast.
Yeah.
But with also some really cool, slightly older cars.
Right, we've rebranded the modern cars to the modern enthusiast. Now, I want to be honest with you. This was not my first choice. However, we did an enormous amount of
It's a lot of thought.
research with our customers specifically. He said we came from feedback. This is not something we took lightly.
Something like 70% of survey respondents the last time we surveyed our users, which we do on like an ongoing basis, said that they wanted to see us have older cars.
The response was shocking to me because I always felt that one of the cool things about the site was that we had only focused on this era and that we were kind of for the next generation, the younger folk. And what it turns out is that our users just wanted to see the older cars also.
Yeah, they just love cars and they love talking about cars.
Yep.
And they don't have that same decision.
And to be honest, like that was kind of what I came to. Like I've thought about this a lot too, because I was very anti this for a really long time. But I also have come to that kind of conclusion that like we're really about like making sure everybody is included and not just keeping a gate kept for one type of car.
Then that has always been one of the benefits of the site. There was a wide variety.
And I think this just broadens that variety even more. And again, I want a vintage driving experience, and now I don't have to sell it somewhere else. Like,
Right.
sell it on the site.
You're buying a Viper.
Or
You're buying a Viper.
70-something Alpha, you know.
God,
And then you can sell on the site.
you're going to be you're buying a Viper.
When you all are watching and listening, there'll be a couple, at least 3 cars live, maybe 4, maybe more cars live when you're watching this.
That are older.
That are older, including a C2 Corvette that's been fully resto modded, an old Cougar, a Bronco, which has also been really nicely restored. And then there's a lot of other cool cars coming. And if you have like a really cool car from before 1981, submit it to us.
Now's
We're
the
now
time.
the place.
We're ready.
The Resto Mod one is fascinating
Mod's
too, because
cool.
it's a vintage car but with modern stuff, and that kind of, that really gets me going. It's something you
In
couldn't
a
have
C8
before.
Corvette color.
This is a big change for Cars and Bids. This
Huge.
was something that we had kind of held almost sacred about the business. And obviously we want to expand, and so volume is a goal, but that wasn't really the impetus for this.
No.
I was really, truly surprised at how many people were asking for this, considering that I always felt that one of the things about the site was that we were kind of these newer cars. And so I'm really, really a believer in, and since I've launched this business, I've really been a believer in, even if I don't think it's the right thing to do, if it's what the company wants, the employees, or if it's what the users want, then I'm not right about everything. And this is one of those things. So this is what, I'm not saying I don't want to do it. I'm excited to have the old cars on the site. I think it'll be cool. But it wasn't something that was on my radar until we did this surveying and continued to find out over and over from repeated surveying that people were into this. And so we're doing it. So
a situation
You're
where
doing it for the people.
doing it for the people, for the folks.
It turns out when you build a really great experience and platform, then people want to use it. And it felt wrong to like gatekeep who could use it when we're also into those cars.
The platform experience and usability is a really positive reason that a lot of people will use this business.
Right, and hats off to our product team for building something really, really great, and our design team for making it look very nice too.
Okay, we got to move on to questions.
Yeah.
Questions are sponsored by the giraffe. They're tall and they can eat stuff that other animals can't eat. What's
Do you mean
that?
the Cars and Bids giraffe?
The Cars and Bids giraffe. No, Filippo, tell us about the app.
But I'm not wearing my giraffe shirt.
Can you bid
Oh,
on
you're
the app?
not. You don't. Well, you don't.
Yes, you can bid on the app. You can also
bid?
you can sell your car
You
on the
can
app.
sell your car on the app?
There's so many things you
Set
can
up
do.
me ask you
alerts,
something.
community.
If you're a giraffe, can you sell your car on the app?
How good are you at using your thumbs?
Let me tell you, I'm going to tell you something that's going to blow your mind, but this is true. The only time I've ever seen a giraffe in the wild, I was in an airplane. I swear to God. Okay, first question.
So much more to unpack there. But we're gonna keep going.
The only time I've ever seen a giraffe in the wild, I was in an airplane. All right.
Where were you?
I was in Africa.
Was the airplane supposed to be that low?
Yeah, the airplane, we were landing on a grass runway, okay? And when you land on a grass runway in the bush, you buzz the runway once to make sure there's no animals on it. I swear to God, that's true.
Yep, that's true.
And so after doing the runway buzz, I saw out the window a giraffe, and I was like, great, we're going to go on safari. We're going to see 100 of these giraffes. Going to be awesome. We landed. We went on the safari. We saw every other animal. Didn't see a giraffe. Took off. Left. Only the giraffe. The only giraffe I saw was from the airplane.
How long were you on safari for?
Oh, just a day. Okay.
Oh, well, that's why. They're everywhere.
But he saw the giraffe.
I saw zebras. By
Let's
the way,
go
the
donkeys.
zebra is not the sponsor of this segment. Okay.
No.
Moving on to questions.
We're
And there were some
anti-zebra.
great questions this week, so we have to cover them, starting with the first question from Stepside Tundra. Will Slate succeed? The enthusiast community has long called for a bare bones truck, but no consumer will actually buy a vehicle with no infotainment and crate windows. But will consumers actually buy a vehicle with no infotainment crate windows? Depending on your answer, what are some other things that car enthusiasts plead for that would be a home run / would never actually sell? We already covered the first half of this question, will Slate succeed, and our thoughts on it earlier. The second part of the question I think is very interesting. What other things that car enthusiasts plead for would be a home run? None. You know,
Yeah.
there's that short that's going around where I talk about how car enthusiasts, people actually want a 4Runner instead of a 70 series. The comments are vicious. You don't get what makes a 70 series. You're wrong. And I looked at a lot of the Instagram profiles, the people who are saying that. You know what they're all driving? 3rd-gen 4Runners, 100 series Land Cruisers with 300,000 miles. These guys are not actually buying new cars for $58,000 or whatever we computed that the 70 series would cost if it came here.
Here's what happens when you're actually in the market for a new car. You're like, okay, this is what I want. Oh, but then every once in a while I have to take my mother-in-law to the airport, and she'll be really annoyed by the noise of this car. She'll be really annoyed by whatever. Oh, let me get the 4Runner instead.
Right. When you're 23 and the only thing you're looking for in a car is that it can off-road in the North Georgia mountains, you want a 70 series. That's what you think you want.
Yep.
But the days when you actually are an adult spending 60,000 United States dollars on an automobile, by the time you get to that point in your adulthood, it's a very different conversation. And so a lot of the stuff that enthusiasts plead for, I think virtually always wouldn't sell. I've worked at automakers, I've worked at car dealers, and I've seen what actually sells. And it's not what the enthusiasts claim that I'll buy one new. Yeah.
I'll give a counterpoint.
No, you don't.
I'll give a counterpoint. Enthusiasts have long wanted manual transmissions in more cars. There is plenty of evidence that when automakers offer it and dealers stock it, because in the US it's a very dealer-centric model, they sell. The take rate on manual WRXs, the take rate on manual Minis, the take rate on manual other cars that are offered that is quite high. So there is a market for things that enthusiasts want too.
I think that a transmission is different from an entire vehicle at a certain price.
And also, I do want a brown manual diesel wagon.
I think that colors are actually a good example of this. Enthusiasts say they want weird colors. Most people don't buy them. Some do. It's not that hard to make colors and stock a couple of them. And so I think it is reasonable to listen to enthusiasts there. Transmission, I think, is also true on certain vehicles.
Certain vehicles.
Federalizing a 70 series Land Cruiser or a Suzuki Jimny or a whatever to try to sell it to the 9 people who claim they would buy one, but really will only buy one when it's used in 18 years.
Yep.
That's not a winning proposition. No matter how much those people say that it is. So, on that subject, our next question, don't look at the question.
Okay, I'm going to close my computer. All right.
Just
every week.
I like knowing.
Next question from Indacan. This is a great one. If Lamborghini were to develop a modernized reinterpretation of the LM002, pull that up, how successful do you think it could be in today's market? I have to be honest with you. When Lamborghini came out with the Urus, which was in 2017-18, I thought they were making a big mistake by not coming out with an off-roader. Because I was looking at the market at the time, and what I saw was the most successful, expensive SUVs were the G-Wagon, the Raptor, and other similar like off-roady kind of things were selling well. The 4Runner TRD Pros were at huge money at that time. Land Cruisers had sold out, as the market was coming to an end. And I thought, why doesn't Lamborghini, they already own the fastest sports cars. Why don't they own the most capable trucks? But they didn't do that, and the Urus was a big success. Has been a big success. Much more than I expected it would be, especially considering I don't think it's the most attractive car. However, I do think that if they came out with a G-Wagon type rival, a truck off-road performance, that would also be successful, I suspect.
Agreed.
I think if you sold that car up against G-Wagon, up against those vehicles, it would be, you look at the market for those cars and it's pretty hot.
So yet another manufacturer that should be building a G-Wagon that isn't currently.
Probably. I don't think they were wrong to build the Urus, but I do question why there isn't an Urus Storado or even another product that is completely separate, that is a specific off-road type vehicle that would allow people in Orange County who are rich but want to seem like they can have capability to have that. I mean, look at the Range Rover, right? It's another example of that.
Yeah.
Incredible capabilities. No one has ever used it, but they want that appearance.
Yep. 100% agreed.
Why don't they do that?
I don't think they know how. When was the last time first of all, the L2? maybe not the best vehicle, period.
They know how. They go to the G-Wagon and they just do what that does.
But
None of their engineers have ever engineered an off-road suspension.
It's all
or suspension with
Volkswagen's
It's
travel.
because I think it's
Volkswagen
because Volkswagen themselves don't do it.
There would not be a really great economies of scale in the Volkswagen product portfolio. There is no other brand. Porsche could probably get away with it. A G-Wagon competitor that was off-roady. Porsche's got some off-road race history and all that. Other than that, I mean, Audi can't sell a car like this.
With the 959.
Well, and Cayennes. There have been successful
Trans-Siberia.
off-roader Cayenne type stuff. Don't forget the Trans-Siberia rally.
Yeah, Trans-Siberia.
Which they won.
Trans-Siberia, that's true. I would love that. And again, as far as taking it as close to the G-Wagon as any manufacturer could, I mean, because again, I could see Lamborghini building something very square, very macho, very G-Wagon-ish, and it would make perfect sense.
They would get away with it, and I think they would sell it. I really legit think they could. If Lambo made a G-Wagon, but for $350, people would buy it.
Absolutely.
People would go crazy buying that, and I really legit think they should.
Well, Lamborghini, listen to us. Build a G-Wagon.
It doesn't even need to be good off-road.
No, it doesn't
throw it
need
out
that
there.
It just
good
needs
off-road.
to look like it would be.
Just look like it's capable enough. No one's ever going to take
Which,
it there.
let's be
Look,
honest, that's how Lamborghinis have always been. The Countach looks like performance, but it's just okay.
You know what? On the subject of that, our next question from SJS 2003. Rank every V12 Lamborghini flagship supercar. Ranky.
Wait, so you're just saying just the V12 line?
There are not many. This should be easy. Mira, Countach, Diablo, Mercy, Aventador. What's the new one called?
Have we done this?
What is the new one called?
Revuelto.
The Revuelto.
Thank you.
Wow.
I almost said the Tamara.
We have done it amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
But now we're going to do it on cam.
All right. I will take notes.
So at the very bottom,
What? What do you put at the very bottom? It's harder than you think.
no.
It is.
You think Aventador.
No. Yes.
It's not Revuelto. I totally
This
disagree.
is Kennan hating new things.
Kennan hates new things. This is
fine,
a
fine.
tough part of Kennan that we don't.
Well, no, enthusiasts hate new things.
The Revuelto is a tremendously exciting
Yeah, but
car.
it's a auto tip battery power.
My argument against that would be the Aventador was also an auto tip car. It was a worse tip. It was a slower car. They made 10 billion of them. Like why is the Revuelto worse
because
than
it
the
doesn't
Aventador?
have a hybrid. It's not cheating.
It's
just,
a
it's an
1,000
NAV12.
horsepower.
It's an NAV12
Yeah, but dude,
by itself with no batteries. It's like the LaFerrari argument. I'd rather have the SP3 Daytona because it has no hybrid assist.
the Revuelto's V12 on its own has 814 horsepower
Yeah.
before you get to the hybrid stuff.
But then it cheats.
814 naturally aspirated 6.5 liter V12 horsepower. Okay.
But then it cheats.
How does it cheat?
Fine,
Does that
take
get up
out
to
the
1,000?
hybrid stuff. You still got an 814 horsepower.
Take off the hybrid
Well,
stuff because you
you're
can
missing
do that.
They're gonna eventually. You're missing my point.
Oh, they're gonna eventually. They're gonna go back to the event.
So they added on the hybrid stuff to give it even more power, even without it.
I'm putting it last.
I don't understand. Your argument, though, is that it doesn't have an NAV12, which it does.
No, I said a non-hybrid non-hybrid V12, which is what I like.
That's like tacking on extra.
No, that's not. It's the
cheating according
SF90
to
versus the LaFerrari. Which would you
Crazy.
rather have and why?
Is neither an option.
Or not the SF.
So-
Oh, the SP3.
The SP3 Daytona.
SP3.
Because
It looks better.
I think the
it's
Aventador looks
rarer.
better. It's not rare yet.
You don't think the Revuelto looks better than the Aventador?
I don't.
totally disagree.
I think you're very wrong.
You're saying Aventador last. You're saying Revuelto last.
Yes.
Are you
The
saying
next
Aventador
one after
second
that
last?
is going to be Aventador. The next
Okay.
one after that will be Revuelto for you.
Okay, so yeah,
assume so.
so my last is Aventador. My second to last
It's Revuelto.
is
It just is.
Revuelto.
I agree.
And now it gets hard.
It gets a little hard, but not that hard because next to last is Diablo.
Diablo. Yeah.
It just
Really?
has to be.
Unfortunately.
Listen, I love the Diablo.
You've convinced one of your friends to get rid of his Murcielago to get a Diablo.
Well, but he's got the worst Murcielago, right? It's a tip convertible. I love that car. And by the way, he's had several great years with it. And the worst Mercy is still one of the great sports cars ever.
Yeah. The Diablo. Well, the Diablo. May I?
Yeah.
The Diablo is a transitionary car
Yeah.
between the icon that was the Countach and the
Quality
actually good
automobile.
car that Mercy became. And you have this weird transition of it started out as rear-wheel drive, which are my favorite cars. Then you had the SV. Then it became all-wheel drive, and then it got bigger, and Audi tried to refine it.
There are versions of the Diablo that I would actually put really high on this list.
SV.
The SV, the SE30, and the 6.0 I would put much higher. But taken as a whole, the early Diablos were not well built. The all-wheel drive Diablos are nice cars, but
they're not.
They're not. I don't see why the Diablo in any way is better than the Countach, to be perfectly honest. It's not more exciting. It's faster, but both cars are slow. It certainly doesn't look as iconic.
Agreed with that.
And it's probably not even better built since Lamborghini went through 3 different owners during the Diablo's production run.
Right, like it's a little better built, but only by chance. But I agree. As much as I also love it, that was the Lamborghini kind of my childhood. It's like I agree.
If I could put a SE30 might be my number 1 overall car on this list, but taken as a whole, the Diablo is our next worst.
Yes, yes. In aggregate, I agree.
Then Mercy. So the question is,
Then Mercy. Which is better?
Countach or Miura? And
I know what I would argue.
Countach, no question.
Yep. I agree.
Really?
Countach is
Kennan.
better. Because the Miura is gorgeous, and it was revolutionary in its time, but it is a tremendously flawed vehicle because the gearbox and the engine share the same oil.
Only in the early cars, and everyone who's driven one has rectified.
They are all fire problems. 100% fire rate risk. They're just, and they're also just like, the Lamborghini Countach defined what fast cars looked like for a generation, not just Lamborghinis.
Kinda still.
And still to this day, it does define what Lamborghinis
And
look like.
Gandini regretted the design of the Miura, and I think that's one of the most interesting aspects of the whole thing. Gandini designed the Miura to look like a front-engine car because that's all that existed at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And even though the engineering was revolutionary with this mid-engine transfer, I mean, it was a very special thing. The front-engine design of the car, it's a beautiful car. But it didn't set the standard like the Countach did with the wedge shape exotic. When you think of a supercar, you think of either a Countach or a car that the Countach inspired, period. Yeah. Without question.
Yeah.
And so I think the Countach is, and also the Countach is simply a better car to use. I've driven a Miura. It is quite compromised, and maybe it's just me, but when I was driving the Miura, I was worried about fire the entire time.
Didn't you, what was it you were looking at the car from the outside?
I was filming the Miura. I'll never forget this. I was filming the Miura. I found the only quiet place where no one would bother me in the entire San Francisco Bay Area to film the Miura. And I was filming the Miura, and I had like 5 hours alone with this very special. And I looked at, I was outside the car shooting the headlights, and I looked inside, and it was on fire. And I was like, oh my God. And this is Derek Tamscott's Miura, okay? And I was like, oh my God. And so I absolutely lose it. And I'm like, it's on fire. Oh my God, this is it. The Miura's gonna burn down. And I as fast as I can, like throw down my equipment, run around inside the car, and it was the dome light reflecting off the back glass. But that's the level of fear that you have. That's when you're in a Miura.
And I mean, you and I have both witnessed them catch on fire before, like in person at the same event.
True, I forgot about that.
So like,
I only have slight Miura experience, and fire was involved in all of it.
How much is a Miura?
Miuras are like $3 million. Now, keep in mind also, there's only 1,000 Miuras, there's 2,000 Countachs, there's 3,000 4,000 Mercies. So that the rarer, it got the rarest, less rare, etc. That's another special thing about the Countach. It's half as common as a Mercy. It's much rarer than a Diablo.
Right. And yeah, so I think other than the most recent Lamborghinis, we're in perfect agreement on the rest.
And by the way, hat tip to Joe Sacchi, I would choose a downdraft.
And brag to me.
I'd brag to the one person in my life who knows.
I know, but unfortunately, got it just a side draft, and so, we'll take it.
Okay, 3 more questions. We'll do them very short. First question from R63S. Not addressed to any of us, but it just says, you're pushing 40 and you're a multimillionaire now. Are you thinking of retiring in the near future? I imagine this one's for you.
Yeah.
Filippo, your thoughts?
No.
I'm never going to retire. This is the greatest job, the only job I've ever had, and the greatest job I've ever had. And I'm not one of those retire early people. I truly love doing this. There are things about it that are a little annoying, but like not many. And I think a lot of people, it's their sole goal in life to retire as quickly as possible. And when you have a job that you truly love, you don't work a day in your life. But I do actually legit feel like that. Like a lot of people go to bed on Sunday night like anxious and dreading the work week, and I am. That is not my situation at all. I go to bed on Sunday night like excited to shoot Monday morning and to see my friends here at the office. And retiring is not on my mind. 2 more questions. From X-Ray 48, Doug, we know how you feel about press launches. If you were in charge at a manufacturer, what would be your method of unveiling a new model and letting the press review or test it? A press launch, because it's incredibly effective. You got to understand, the journalists, with the exception of a few of us, the journalists do not make a lot of money and do not really ever get luxury experiences or treated specially, right? They go back home to suburban Chicago and they're just a normal guy. But on a press launch, they're flown out first class by Jeep to review the Wagoneer S at the finest hotel in North Idaho. And when they walk in after having been driven in a Grand Wagoneer limo from the airport, the person at the hotel says, "Oh, hello, Mr. Stevenson. We've been waiting for you." I don't know what their names are. I don't want to say anybody specifically, but this is true of every journalist I've ever known. And then they go up to their nice hotel, and then they're whisked down to a fine dinner, and the PR people are their best friends. Oh, it's Jim. Oh, hey, Jim. Nice to see you. The PR people don't give a about you. They're just, but this experience is so powerful for the journalists. They feel so special. And so when they go home, and they remember that the Wagoneer S was a bad car that is radically overpriced, they think to themselves, that is all true, but I felt so good when I was there. And so they write a puff piece, and that is exactly how I would reveal cars if I worked for the automaker.
It's a good strategy.
There's a reason it works.
Yep.
Am I wrong?
Nope, not at all.
Wrong at all.
And also, you're guaranteeing coverage. You are literally paying to make sure that people are going to write about it.
It's probably cheaper than any form of advertising you could do. People see an advertisement and they're either skeptical or not paying attention. But paying to fly Jim first class from Chicago to Seattle to do this press event, what does that cost per journalist? 12 grand? It's nothing when you compare it to, and then he writes an article in the Tribune or on carandriver.com, or I'm not scapegoating any journalist publication. They're all this bad. But like that's better than any advertising. That shows up in SEO better than any advertising you could possibly do.
Yep.
Last question. This comes from 09 Camry XLE. Doug, in your recent Navigator video, you said that it feels more luxurious because they moved almost all the controls to the screen. That's not entirely what I said, but we'll move on. It feels luxurious because it has a massive screen that does everything. Yep. Do you actually believe that removing buttons is more luxurious, or do you say that because it's what you think potential buyers want to hear? I say that because it's what I think potential buyers want to hear, because ultimately those are the people buying the car. I reviewed that car and I looked at all the comments, and every comment was like, the screens suck. I never want to get rid of my screens. I never want to get rid of my buttons. I hate everything about screens. These people are so stupid. And none of those people are Navigator buyers. Yeah. Time and time again, what luxury car buyers have told us is they want screens. They're used to using their phone. They're used to using their iPad. They use their TV with a joystick remote. Screens make sense to them. It's what they understand. And all these people who are like, I want these things in buttons, have never been in a modern car to understand the level of equipment that modern cars have could never be put in buttons. You would have a 747 control panel with stuff everywhere around you. Screens are what these buyers want. So the reason that I say that, do you think that's what buyers want to hear? Yeah, that's who I'm reviewing the car for. I'm reviewing the car not so that YouTube commenters can all talk amongst themselves and with me about how much we wish they still had buttons. I'm reviewing it for people who are actually trying to buy the car, and those people want screens. No matter how much YouTube commenters who are driving a Ford Crown Victoria with mismatched wheels want to claim that screens are the death of the world, the world is going towards screens.
Fundamentally, people have taken to understand screens equals features equals luxury.
Yeah.
And that is the perception.
And it's generally true because the screens, the automakers can put in more and more and more equipment fairly inexpensively. With that said, I want to be clear. I think there are great cars. I mean, none of my cars have screens in them. Like my sports cars, I wouldn't. When I get a sports car, I don't even consider one with a screen in it. It's never even on my mind. But there's a place for that stuff, and there's a place for not that stuff. In a Navigator review, a Navigator is not a place for millions of buttons. You don't want, these are not people who care that buttons have been replaced by screens. They understand screens, they want to use screens. Yep. And I think it's so laughable, it's so intellectually dishonest in the comments of this video when people say, screens are the worst, buttons are the best. You're not the buyer. You don't even understand the buyer. And I understand the buyer a little bit more. And you know who understands the buyer best? Lincoln, the multi-billion-dollar car company that has invested hundreds of millions of dollars into research and development for the car.
I mean, sometimes. Some brands have gotten it wrong.
The BMW XM.
Yeah. I agree with you. People want screens because that's high tech and that feels fancy right now.
And they understand them. And honestly, also, they want all these features. What I think a lot of these people don't understand who complain is they're like, I don't need any of that stuff.
No, they want it.
Well, the buyers of a $125,000 SUV who are comparing it against 9 other very similar SUVs at that price point, they want all that stuff. There's not like a thing like, oh, I wish this didn't have anything and just had buttons. There's none of that. These people aren't looking for the Slate Truck.
Also, the screens are cool.
The Lincoln screens are pretty cool.
They really are.
I have to give it to you. They are pretty cool.
They work well, like that giant screen.
Except that you can't put CarPlay where you want it, in my mind. But
I disagree. I think CarPlay being here and then the one in front of you gives you the weather, man.
But you can't have CarPlay
It's hard to look at it and go, oh, yeah, it is sunny.
It doesn't just give you the current weather. It gives you the weather for the next 3 hours.
Oh.
So take that.
Damn.
Do you see clouds? Doesn't matter.
You see clouds? Oh, they're going to be gone soon.
No, legitimately, no. This really always grinds my gears because so many car enthusiasts think they know what the people want and have no concept of what people want in certain segments.
What they know is what they want and think that everybody also wants that, when the reality of it is it's just not the case. And I am very guilty of this myself.
Right.
Not always.
Your
I'm very
car,
guilty of this.
perfectly fine to be all buttons and notes because that's
great.
It does. The integration of it actually makes a lot of sense when you look at it in modern context. They knew what they were doing.
I will say, I can understand some of the sentiment. Like, if you've helped your parents or your in-laws or whatever try to use the modern technology, you hear their complaints. But they still wanted that when they bought the car.
The problem, though,
fundamentally,
the problem with that argument,
complain and actually purchase.
I agree with that. That's true. They still want those features.
They still want it.
So what do you do?
Right.
The other problem with that argument is, and I think something that's getting lost on people who make that argument is, the people who are buying these cars, the Navigators, they're not 85 anymore. And by the way, current 85-year-olds worked on computers when they were in offices. But also, a lot of people buying Navigators, my guess is the average buyer age is somewhere in the 40 to 60 range, 50, mid-50s.
Agreed.
Those people are very used to use. iPhone came out 20 years ago. Those people were in their 30s. They're not Luddites. They know how to use this stuff. They're not sitting there being like, how do I? And there is some confusion to it, and there's a learning curve to it. But if you want that level of equipment, that's going to happen.
Yep.
And thank you for getting off of your soapbox.
I'm not wrong, though.
You're not.
And by the way, for this reason, Kennan will never have any of these cars.
Well, that's not the only reason. But I'll have something. I don't know. Maybe
Kennan
something
doesn't care.
modern.
And I'm feeling it. If you don't want it, you don't have to do it.
He has navigation in his car.
Which I never use. That's true.
Tinker Toy navigation system. Remember the Lincoln Blackwood navigation that only had 2 buttons?
The best. Well, it's the same. It was the same system.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It was the Mark II navigation system that was in the 2000 M5.
He's upgraded to Mark IV.
Yes, the computer, that is correct.
You think I
Mark
joke?
III is what came in.
I don't joke.
Damn, I want to upgrade to a Mark IV. You know what I'm saying?
He knows his stuff.
I don't joke.
But yeah, I get it.
That's the more correct, and that is the right mind.
Some of us live in a Mark IV world.
Okay, this is the end. Filippo, do you have any final words, any African animals you want to talk about?
No, but you should check out Cars and Bids, including the pre-1981 cars that we have live right now.
Pre-1981, the old stuff. Cars and Bids goes vintage.
Cars and everything. Best podcast we've ever done.
Best podcast we've ever done in our lives.
Proper celebration of YouTube turning 20.
YouTube is 20 now?
Wow, first video filmed right here at the San Diego Zoo.
That's right.
Yep.
I was saying all these animals. They were in
What a
front of the
connection.
elephants. I didn't mention elephants. Oh my God, next week. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.